The Killingworth haunting. When a cult objects anchor evil, a Connecticut family discovers their farmhouse wasn't just haunted, it was deliberately prepared to trap something inhuman inside. Spring arrives gently in rural Connecticut, bringing with it the promise of new beginnings and fresh starts. For David and Carol Prescott and their two young children, the spring of 1977 represents exactly that kind of opportunity. The farmhouse they purchase on the outskirts of Killingworth offers space their previous apartment never could, room for the children to play, and a price too good to pass up. The previous owner sells quickly, accepts their offer without negotiation, and departs before the closing paperwork fully dries. At the time, the Prescotts interpret this as good fortune. They do not yet understand what waits for them inside the walls. The disturbances begin before the family finishes unpacking. On their third night in the house, doors throughout the building slam shut in rapid succession, one after another, like dominoes falling in the darkness. David Prescott walks the hallway checking locks and windows, finding everything secure, no draft, no explanation. The following morning, Carol discovers the crucifix she mounted carefully in the upstairs hallway, lying on the floor beneath where it hung. She replaces it, checking the nail, making certain it holds firm. The next morning it rests on the floor again, face down this time, as if placed there with deliberate contempt. The children begin speaking about the man who visits their bedroom after their parents turn out the lights. The 4-year-old describes him as tall and dark, standing in the corner watching them. The 6-year-old reports that the man speaks to them in words they cannot understand, a language that sounds harsh and ancient. Carol Prescott initially dismisses these accounts as nightmares, the products of childhood imagination adjusting to a new environment. Then she experiences her own encounter with whatever shares their home. Waking in the depth of night to use the bathroom, Carol finds every drawer in the kitchen pulled completely open. Every cabinet door stands wide. The refrigerator hangs open, its interior light casting strange shadows across the disrupted room. Nothing appears taken. Nothing sits out of place except for the doors and drawers themselves. The display strikes her as territorial, a statement of ownership, a message declaring that this space belongs to something else. She wakes her husband, and together they make the decision that will change everything. Through their church, they request help from Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens arrive on a warm afternoon in May, their reputation for investigating paranormal phenomena already well established throughout New England. Ed Warren, a demonologist who has spent decades studying inhuman entities, walks through the Prescott home with careful attention to detail. Lorraine Warren, a clairvoyant who claims the ability to perceive spiritual presences, moves through the rooms in silence, her face growing increasingly grave. Before interviewing the family about their experiences, Ed insists on inspecting every corner of the structure, every closet, every surface. His trained eye catches something the Prescotts have never noticed: irregularities in the plaster of two separate walls, patches that appear more recent than the surrounding surfaces, repairs made with slightly different materials. Ed Warren asks permission to open one of these patched sections. Using basic tools, he carefully removes the newer plaster to reveal a cavity deliberately carved into the wall space between studs. Inside this hidden chamber sits a collection of objects that transform the investigation immediately. A piece of paper folded carefully bears a hand-drawn symbol, geometric and precise, drawn with what appears to be ink or perhaps something darker. A glass vial contains residue, dark and unidentifiable. Animal bones, small and delicate, rest alongside a crude cloth figure pierced through with pins. Ed Warren photographs everything before removing it, documenting the exact placement and condition of each item. A second hidden cavity in the master bedroom wall contains similar materials, more symbols, more organic materials, more evidence of deliberate occult practice. Ed Warren has encountered such objects before in other investigations, and he recognizes them immediately for what they represent. These are not random collections or forgotten artifacts. They are psychic anchors, objects placed with specific intention to attract and maintain a supernatural presence in this location. The Prescott family has not simply moved into a haunted house. They have moved into a house that was deliberately prepared to be haunted, constructed as a vessel for something inhuman. The discovery explains the immediate intensity of the phenomena the Prescotts experienced from their first days in residence. Most hauntings begin gradually, building over time as energy accumulates or entities grow stronger. Activity that arrives at full force from the beginning suggests something different entirely. Either a location charged with extreme psychic energy or an entity that has been waiting, anchored in place, ready to manifest the moment new occupants arrive. The objects hidden in the walls served exactly this purpose, maintaining a channel for something dark to remain connected to the physical space, even in the absence of the person who originally placed them there. As Ed Warren documents his findings and prepares to remove the occult objects from the house, the activity escalates dramatically. A heavy bookcase in the living room topples across the room with tremendous force, crashing to the floor despite no one standing near it. The violence of the movement suggests intelligence behind it, awareness that the objects sustaining the haunting have been discovered and are about to be removed. Carol Prescott, stepping out onto the front porch to escape the oppressive atmosphere inside, feels hands on her back, shoving her forward down the wooden steps. She falls hard, bruising her knee badly, the pain sharp and immediate. Her children watch from the doorway, their faces pale with fear, witnessing their mother attacked by something they cannot see. Lorraine Warren conducts her own assessment of the property, opening herself psychically to perceive what inhabits the space. She identifies two distinct presences sharing the house with the Prescott family. The first possesses human characteristics, residual energy tied to whoever created and placed the hidden objects throughout the structure. This presence feels cold and calculating, the psychic imprint of someone who understood exactly what they were doing when they constructed their occult anchors. The second presence radiates something entirely different. Lorraine perceives it as inhuman, an entity that exists outside the normal progression of human life and passing. This is what the hidden objects were designed to attract and keep, a malevolent force given permission to remain through deliberate invitation. Ed Warren contacts a priest from the Diocese of Hartford, someone who has worked with the Warrens on previous Connecticut investigations and understands the nature of what he will be asked to confront. Before any blessing can occur, Ed removes every occult object from the walls, carefully extracting each item and sealing it for later destruction. He knows from extensive experience that leaving such objects in place, even during spiritual intervention, dramatically reduces the effectiveness of any prayer or ritual performed. The objects themselves serve as open doors, channels through which inhuman entities maintain their connection to physical locations. Those doors must be closed before any real cleansing can begin. The blessing of the house occurs the following day, conducted room by room with thorough attention to every space where activity occurred. The priest addresses both presences Lorraine identified, the human residual and the inhuman entity that was deliberately anchored to the property. Lorraine Warren, present throughout the ritual, reports that the inhuman presence resists far more strongly than the residual human energy. In certain rooms, particularly the children's bedroom where the figure appeared night after night, the resistance feels almost physical, a pressure against the prayers being spoken, an unwillingness to release its claim on the space. Extended prayer and repeated blessings eventually succeed in each location, and Lorraine perceives the inhuman entity withdrawing, retreating from the house as its anchors are destroyed and sacred words reclaim the space. Within 48 hours of the ritual's completion, all activity in the Prescott home ceases completely. The doors remain closed throughout the night. The crucifix stays mounted on the wall. The children sleep undisturbed, no longer visited by the tall, dark figure who spoke in ancient tongues. Carol Prescott walks through her kitchen in the morning to find everything exactly as she left it the night before. No displays of territorial dominance, no invisible hands reorganizing her home. The house feels different, lighter, as if something heavy has been lifted from its foundation. The Killingworth haunting becomes one of Ed Warren's most frequently referenced cases in his public lectures on paranormal phenomena. He uses it to illustrate the concept of intentional haunting, the deliberate creation of conditions designed to produce and sustain supernatural activity. The objects found hidden in the Prescott farmhouse represent physical proof that someone possessed specific knowledge of how to attract and anchor in human entities, knowledge that Ed considers genuinely dangerous in circulation. He argues that the existence of such practices, preserved and passed between people who understand their function, presents a serious concern for anyone who might unknowingly move into a space where such preparations occurred. The Prescott family remains in the Killingworth farmhouse after the exorcism, experiencing no further disturbances throughout their years of residence there. The house that was deliberately prepared to contain something dark becomes simply a home again, a place where children grow and families gather, its sinister purpose erased through spiritual intervention and the destruction of the objects that sustained it. Ed Warren keeps those recovered occult items sealed in his personal collection, adding them to the archive of materials from cases where physical objects served as supernatural catalysts. He considers this category of evidence among the most important in his entire body of investigative work, tangible proof that the paranormal operates not only in the realm of the invisible, but sometimes leaves behind artifacts that can be held, examined, and studied. The case demonstrates a disturbing reality that Ed and Lorraine Warren encounter repeatedly throughout their decades of investigation, that hauntings do not always arise spontaneously from tragedy or residual energy, but sometimes result from deliberate human action, from rituals and practices designed to open doors that should remain closed, to invite presences that should never be welcomed. The farmhouse in Killingworth stands as evidence that such knowledge exists, that it produces real effects, and that families seeking nothing more than affordable housing can find themselves in the middle of supernatural situations they never imagined possible. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.